Stadium Journey podcast. We are so proud to be part of the VOC Nation Radio Network. Hopefully they're proud to be part of our network. After listening to the podcast tonight, don't switch over to the debate. If you haven't made up your mind already, I don't know what's wrong with you. What are you waiting for? But instead of watching the debate, go visit the website, stadiumjourney.com, or follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just check us out at Stadium Journey. To find our podcasts, if you're listening at a later time, simply search VOC Nation Radio Network on whatever podcast search engine you use. You could find our library of video podcasts on Stadium Journey's YouTube channel. And some of you are there already on twitch.tv. That's where we simulcast our podcasts every time we record at twitch.tv/danlaw83. And if you want to check out our old library, you can find links to every podcast we've ever recorded, 75 of them now, by the way, at the Stadium Journey website. Just look under the podcast tab at the menu.
Only 65 of them have pork roll references.
Slacking. 90%.
Got one. I got one in. 66.
Also, if you're interested, you can support our work through our Patreon page. We have a new menu of rewards for our supporters, including the possibility of joining us on a future podcast. Our guest tonight did not go that way. We'll get it. We'll talk to Andrew in a second. But first, let me introduce our starting lineup. We got Dave Cotney with us, as always. Follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez can be followed on social media at Ballpark Hunter. You can follow our producer, Dan Calachico, at DanLaw83. And I am Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And tonight, we're joined once again by one of our favorite guests from the college football tour. It's Andrew Bauhs. Welcome back, Andrew. I think this is your fourth time on now?
I think this might be. I think we're hitting 4. I think it's pretty. This is great. I begin to feel like part of the gang here, guys.
I think you're on the all-time leaders list here for guest appearances. So congratulations, and I'm sorry. So for those of you who don't know Andrew and his awesome website, collegefootballtour.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, you got it right on the button.
All right. Your mission right now is to try to visit every single one of the FBS football stadiums.
Correct. Yes, I'm 84 stadiums on the way of 130 and taking a little pause at the moment.
That was going to be my first question. So how's the quest going, sir?
Well, I mean, gosh, I was ready, or I already pretty much knew that when I had a flight for Seattle all set to go, and I pulled that back, and StubHub refunded me on some tickets, and it began to come clear that this year wasn't going to be one that I was going to be accelerating this goal. But even if football would have gone and it is going, but I guess what I mean with more fans, with more energy, I don't think that knowing that my goal is to visit all the stadiums and really capture the passion and energy of the stadium, you can't do that this year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you had the chance to visit a stadium this year, what is it like this year? I can't really tell from the television set. But what's your impressions of?
Well, all I know is, I know that anything that's tailgating related is gone. Ole Miss last week, they had their game in the Grove, which is one of the best places to go tailgating, period. That was all gone. But what would I do when I go to a stadium like Ole Miss? My number one attraction would be to showcase this incredible, tailgating venue, and I can't do it. So, it wouldn't be it. And I don't want fans of Ole Miss to hop onto my website and go, oh, you picked the pandemic year to show us off? Thanks. That's not my goal.
Yeah, we're actually having a lot of the same issue with trying to do stadium reviews this year as places starting to open up, and our correspondents are getting the itch to get out there and hit the road again. Like, do we want to write reviews when it's going to be just an absolutely different experience? For our purposes, I say, yeah, we'll still do it, but we'll make sure to mention that, hey, it's 2020. This is not the norm. This is 2020's version.
It could have its own folder. You have this year that people may want to go and seek. And remember, it's a historical, plot line for sure.
Yeah, and also depends where you are. I mean, for example, I went to some ballparks this year, and one had 100 people, and you kind of felt something was odd. Another one had about 500 people, and everything was sort of normal. It's just that you only had 500 people at the ballpark. So I'm kind of curious what college venues or USL Championship soccer venues or any other sport, how that will differ state to state. I know here in Indiana, I'm getting the itch so bad that I want to hit some auto race tracks that apparently in certain parts of where I live, there's no quarantine. The place is packed.
The virus can't operate around cars, I guess.
I guess not. The gas exhaust would kill it. But yeah, interesting times, definitely. And I agree because I want to go down to Louisville and check out their new soccer venue. However, I want to go there when the place is packed. I want to go there for the tailgating. I want to go there for the Coopers, which is the supporter group, to march to the stadium. Like, I want that experience. I don't want to go down there and see anything 50% capacity. So I know what you mean.
Yep.
Well, how scary is it that with today's announcement coming out of Florida that within the next couple weeks we could see the Swamp full, or we could see Florida State full. I don't think either school has commented yet, but the governor of Florida is saying that there's going to be no restrictions. I'm a little curious to see a couple things if the schools, go ahead and just open the doors. And if they do people just show up in droves?
Okay, so the Florida thing, just to tack it on to the wrestling thing for a second, that will be the first thing that has people in it. Vince and Tony Khan, who run AEW, they're both running in Florida. It happened since the lockdowns. Are not going to wait a second. They're not going to wait a single solitary second. Now, AEW's been letting people in, really social distance. They're, that place that's attached to the Jaguars stadium. It's like an inside amphitheater. So they have open air, and they are sticking people way away from each other in the seats. But I know Vince will try to, oh, we're opening back up, huh? Come on in. And to answer your question, just don't go to Florida, because I'm not now. Never, ever again.
Well, in these stadiums, if I may,
please do.
No, I'm Alice in this Brady Bunch. Okay. Sorry. Look at some of these. So it's the SEC, the Sun Belt, and most of the Big 12, most of the ACC. They're the ones that are allowing in fans. When I see this, and bands too, mind you, which seems odd. I've even seen masks over the end of the tubas and things like that, and over the end of the, trumpets, like things like that. I wasn't so sure that musical stuff could be done, but here's my thing: social. You go ahead and fill it 1/5 full. What happens at halftime when everybody's crunching in to get to the bathrooms? What happens at the end of the game when everyone's leaving and masks? And you see not a lot of people are wearing masks, and so to the Florida thing, I'd be surprised if Ben Hill Griffin Stadium down there, Doak Campbell, or any of those got seriously full. I'd be surprised, because it feels like it would start to weigh heavily on the university.
Yeah, I was able to go to a few baseball games this summer, and I got to say, when I was in my seats, everything was great. Like you said, Andrew, everybody was spread out, and you talk to the people you're with, and everybody was very respectful of the rules and stuff. It's halftime. It's coming into the stadium. It's leaving the stadium, where people are going to be jammed together, and that's where the risk is, not the game itself. Whether it's a crowd of 50,000 or a crowd of 5,000, you're going to have that same congestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, and that's why, I know that the Big Ten and the MAC, and they're going to start. And I know right now they have no plans for any fans, period. So, we'll see if that changes too.
Well, I haven't watched any of the games on television. Are they trying to do the same sort of thing like the NFL does with the phony noise? And
Yeah.
that Ellis, I did see a little bit of highlights of that LSU game where they lost to Mississippi State, and it was interesting to see all 5 people in the end zone just shocked when that game-winning touchdown went in. But yeah, it can't be remotely close to the same, is it?
No, I mean, and I can tell from TV, very easily. But I guess what I mean is, you're talking about within the stadium. It's not that much different because it wouldn't be. But that also concerns me too. You see lack of social distancing in the stadiums too, and people are congregating as well, maybe trying to make that crowd noise happen. But the more you scream, I don't know, according to the experts.
Yeah, that's true. The more, well, like at school, I don't know about your school, but my music teacher is having fits because the kids aren't allowed to sing. So
yeah, same thing. I mean, like the music is been given a entirely different curriculum, so they're just starting from scratch.
I mean, I'd rather they be allowed to breathe.
There's that too. Yeah.
That's my thing is I don't try to argue it anymore, but people are like, well, what about this? I'm like, the answer is pandemic.
Yeah.
And then I didn't put it there. Like, it can't help you with your wants and needs. I have wants and needs too. Like, to work at all. That would be nice. Everybody's home and I can't do that. And as far as stadiums, it's just that it's so exhausting to talk about it anymore. Not with you guys. I'm talking about on social media, and everybody has a different idea, and everybody's going to do whatever the hell they want to do. I almost cursed. Everybody's going to do whatever they want to do. And it's just like, you know what? At this point, if somebody wants to try it, I'm not going. Go ahead. I'm tired of trying to be the moral high ground and be like, but everybody's going to get hurt. You don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lady at a middle school game in Ohio get dragged out by police for not wearing a mask, and I got into an argument with that with people on Facebook. And my attitude is, if you want to go to the game, just put the mask on or just don't go. And if a cop asked you, just leave if you are that against wearing a mask. So
it's interesting that you have to respect all cops until you have to wear a mask at a school. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, even without the sports, it's a little crazy. We bought without our travels happening, we bought a spot in Wasaga Beach in cottage country. And
so we know how much money Dave spends on sports travel over here, because the one year he can't go, he bought a cabin.
It's in cottage country.
Anyway,
Sorry,
apparently, all these car enthusiasts, people who buy and if this is you listener out there, I apologize, but people who buy relatively cheap cars and then, dump a whole bunch of stuff into them, like change the suspension and add lights and all that kind of stuff.
A hoopty.
So apparently there's a rather large group of people, and they go to places and they go do donuts in parking lots and just, take over the city or whatever. And usually they go down to the States for that somewhere. Well, the borders are closed. So they decided to descend on Wasaga Beach, where our place is. And,
Wait a minute. Are you saying Canadians buy old cars, cross the border, and do donuts in the United States, and then go back?
Apparently, I don't know. Or maybe they were transplanted from the States and they just stayed here.
More likely.
I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I know I play the holier than thou we are Canadian cards too often, but it's a little messed up here at times. I do have a serious question to getting back to football. So we've had the only team that I can think of off the top of my head is UConn, which basically shuttered the program. I'm not sure. Maybe Paul, you can say what the story is with UMass, but I think they're similar. Do you think that this is it? That these guys are done? Especially UConn, who's moving conferences to the Big East, which is, prided itself on not having football. Do you see UConn coming back, or are there any others like that?
Well, there's only 3 FBS teams in all of New England, and so if we shut down 2 of them, Andrew has no excuse to come out here to this part of the country.
Hey, this is the thing. When Idaho dropped down to FCS, I'm like, thank God I didn't go to Idaho. It just basically moved the finish line up, and they keep seeming to move it further out. Hey, let's get 5 more liberties. It's like, what the heck? Okay, but but I think UConn's on a thread. I think they were dangling for a while anyway, and they got such a beautiful stadium there too. This is a place I was really excited to go to. Well, I mean, it looks nice on TV. If you've been there, okay, it looks very nice on TV.
It's the nicest of the ones in this part of the country. Let's put it that way.
Okay,
It's a good spot for a Canadian Major League Soccer team.
Yeah, to answer your question, Dave. As far as I understand it, the UConn team, it's been hemorrhaging money since they started it. Through a lot of factors. I think one of having a nice stadium 30 miles away from the campus is one of the issues. Yeah, they've been losing money pretty much from Jump Street. So, and I don't think there's a plan to move them to Stores, because Stores, Connecticut is not near anything. So I think the thinking was originally that when this goes all the way back to the elevation of UConn goes back to when the Patriots were going to move to Hartford. And they were going to build a giant downtown stadium for the Patriots and for UConn football. As we know, the Patriots backed out. UConn was then stuck. They couldn't build the giant stadium in downtown Hartford. So they got some land available in East Hartford, which is not ordinarily a place you'd want to be. But they built the stadium there, and it's nice. It's serviceable. But, yeah, the program hasn't done well either, and I don't think that's really helped, especially the last few years. It's really gone downhill. So, yeah, there's a lot of speculation that this might be it for UConn football. UMass also shut down their season, but they recently announced that they're going to start it back up. They're going to play 5 or 6 games, I think, against a few other teams. So read into that what you will. I don't know. One of my kids is an alumnus of UMass, but he's not into sports, so I can't ask him.
Are there any other independents? Because it's kind of independents. Obviously, Notre Dame is not in that boat, but what about Army, Navy? Who else is there?
Navy's not an independent at the time. They've joined a conference. Army's fine. But you do like the other independents, Liberty, New Mexico State, but they just recently joined. So, they've done everything they can to get there. UConn has a history of not so flattering records.
Are those other independents playing this year?
So let me think. All the conferences are a go now. But that's a good question about the independents. So I don't really actually know 100% if the independents are going. I would assume that a lot of them are not, just because who are they going to play? I mean, at this point, now a lot of these teams are going all conference, and the ones that are just joining the conversation again, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 being among them, are playing abbreviated schedules. So I don't know. Makes me want to check on that one.
I think Army joined a conference for this year, didn't they? I know Dave just said Notre Dame joined the ACC, right? Or the Big Ten. What did they join? They joined somebody. ACC.
They had a sort of quasi agreement with the ACC to begin with.
I think this might be a giant assumption on my part, but I think UMass is kind of, since everybody built a lot of bye weeks into their schedules, I think UMass is kind of filling in some bye weeks here and there.
Yeah, I think that's the fate for a lot of these others, but it doesn't. I mean, as an independent, you're really screwed because, I think as far as I understand right now, the bowl games are just going to be the New Year's Six. I mean, there's, it's just, it might as well just be, spring ball. Yeah.
But interestingly, I think it was a conference president who basically said that there should be no limitations this year on teams that could make a bowl. So you could have a 1-8 team make a bowl game or whatever, which is kind of funny. It's similar to what some of the big conferences were saying about the basketball tournament, where everybody's in.
Wait, was that UConn's president saying that? Perhaps.
No, I
Please
think
let us play.
I think it was. I want to say it was like an ACC person or an SEC person.
Okay,
Probably
well,
an SEC person.
yeah, it's going to be very interesting. They're even talking about how's the Pac-12 going to do it. They got a 7-game schedule. I think you'd have to go undefeated to be able to actually be part of that conversation, because you're going to be battling up against potential 10-win teams, and that's even if this season goes all the way.
So I'm going to ask you to speculate a little bit more with knowledge that you probably don't have, but probably have more than the rest of us. Some of the talking heads on television often speak about, the Power Five just totally leaving the NCAA and going to a I don't know, some format where they're on their own and they're not being 4 conferences. Do you think this year of whatever this year is, this year of mess, do you think it furthers that ability for those conferences to go on their own and leave the NCAA and the other three or 4 conferences behind, or do you think that those plans are hampered?
I think, like most plans in 2020, you're going to take this year, you're going to look back on it and make a lot of changes. Already you have people talking about, cutting down on their travel for work and using Zoom, things of that nature. So I think everything's going to have a good hard look. And I think college football could be one of those. As far as breaking off, I don't know if they're at that point. I mean, it took a pandemic to get Notre Dame into a conference. Will they stay? When will they see the benefits of it? It's going to be interesting. I think there'll be some changes. I don't know. That feels kind of drastic to me to say that in the next couple of years that'd be a change. But this is the time to look at it and see if can you create another division below the Power Five, one to squeak between the FBS and the FCS, anything along those lines. This is the time to start making changes.
Just to backtrack for a second. We got some intel from our buddy Eddie Hoops, who's listening to us right now. He says the only 3 teams that are not playing this fall are UConn, Old Dominion, and New Mexico State.
Yeah,
everybody else is playing in the fall.
I thought I had not seen New Mexico State on any schedules, and then all the other independents. Yeah, like you guys already said, they're filling in gaps for those teams that have 5 weeks.
And looking at UMass, I looked up UMass really quick while you were talking. They plan to play anywhere between a 3 to 6 game schedule this fall. And the reason they opted back in is because basically their options for spring football were just drying up. So they said a few games is better than nothing.
And that's just it. These are teams that are going out. It's basically glorified practice. It really is. Unfortunately, for those independent teams, at least the conference teams have a potential conference game to look forward to.
So, Andrew, did you have any big trips planned before everything shut down in 2020? I think by the end of the year, I think we're going to have just a show on all the stuff we didn't get to do that we wanted to. But
yes, of course. I mean, I had such a schedule. I was ready to go. This year was going to fill in some gaps that I've been trying to get to for a while. Washington, Clemson. I had Florida State on the schedule. Georgia was involved. Auburn was involved. I really had it going. And so it's something that, I really wanted to accelerate my schedule, kind of get it done a little faster, with 46 left to go. I was trying to do 8 or 9 a year, so that's going to push it a little bit. But, that schedule, I'll just push it on, and just I didn't even put my schedule out because I didn't want to. I'd have gotten a little depressed, I think, if I put it out there and said, "Hey, look where I was gonna go."
Yeah, I did that for a week this summer when my summer baseball trip got canceled. It was probably not the best idea for my mental health to
I'm
do.
telling you guys, plan less, you get let down less. I'm telling you.
I can't do it that way, Dan. I just can't.
Man.
So I don't know. What would it take for you to change your mind and go to a game or two this year?
Well, if the Big Ten again, we have living in Chicago, I'm stuck with any sort of travel to almost half the states right now. Any sort of travel, I'd have to quarantine. So, unless the Big Ten or the Mid American Conference allows some fans or maybe some media, I might have a shot there. Then I'd look at Northwestern Illinois or Northern Illinois. Wisconsin opens up, that'd be nice. But that would honestly be it. As far as I am now, I'm trying to be as active as I can on social media and keep involved on Saturdays and that's as far as on social media and watching games. That's it for this year.
Yeah, so is that what Saturdays look like for you now? Is it just all right? Let me get on the couch with some nachos and beverages and.
And I can't even motivate without any fans with pumped-in crowd noise and all that. I don't even get to see any of the mascots that I have 1,000 pictures of. Man, it's not the same. So I think last weekend was the first weekend since 1993 that I was home for a game. Well, I was home watching games and I did not turn on College Game Day. That's a record. Absolutely. So I just the motivation is just not there for me. I'm already thinking about next year, and I'm trying to keep up with my YouTube videos, which I know Dave is going to be thrilled about as more come out.
Yes.
Yeah, I can sympathize for you. I think I watched like 3.5 innings of baseball this summer.
That's because your team sucked. Hold on.
Well, that did have a lot to do with it. I won't lie. What do the travel restrictions look like out there in the Midwest, Andrew?
Well, so in Chicago, we just got the notification today that there are 22 states that if you go to, you can when you come back, it's 14-day quarantine.
Yeah, Indiana's one of them, correct?
That is correct. Indiana's one of them.
Right across the state.
Yeah, that's like me with Rhode Island was on our list for a while. It's like Rhode Island's across the street.
Ironically, it's right down the Big 12 and over to the SEC. So that's kind of like, I go to any of those games, I can't, and as a teacher, I can't afford that. So it's got me stuck.
Yeah, I was actually looking because I've got the Jones too. I was able to sneak in a couple baseball games, but it's like, all right, now we got to find a football game to go to. So I looked in this area, the closest place I can go to that was having fans at games and I would not have to quarantine when I came back was Marshall.
Oh,
Not that far.
In West Virginia. So that was a 12.5-hour ride. That's the closest football game that has fans right now to me.
And the experience, you like you said, you're not so into, taking in an experience like that. Is it even worth it? 12.5 hours for what?
Well, and like you were saying at Marshall, I would miss probably all the stuff that makes going to a game at Marshall so awesome.
Yeah, Marshall's a great place. One of the places I haven't talked a lot about that I really, really enjoyed. And how would you know that? It's really not worth it. And for me, like, I just think it's so important. Like, I want to highlight these places to the best of their ability for anybody who hops on and takes a look. I mean, it's just, I have some friends who are still trying to go to the games and stuff, and no thanks.
Yeah, one interesting thing is that to go see a college game and have some sort of evidence to future viewers. People are going to be watching your videos maybe 10, 20 years from now that were not alive during the quarantine or were too young to remember. So it'd be nice to have a little historical aspect. That's kind of how I'm looking at it this year with my visits. Louisville City is playing this weekend. I'm debating whether to go or not. I'm just like, I think I said that earlier in the broadcast. But part of me is like, no, I don't want to go. And then I start thinking about it, and a half hour later, it's like, yes, I want to go. So yeah, it's a tough year for guys like us.
What's it look like for you, Mark, traveling wise?
Well, when I went back to New Jersey, I came from a state that I had a quarantine for 14 days. So based on what they told me at the airport, they weren't going to stop me from getting on the plane and flying back to Indianapolis. But being that I was there for an unfortunate reason, I had a car and I was able to drive back to Indianapolis. So nobody stopped me at the border. Pennsylvania didn't say halt. You can't cross. But Pennsylvania was not on that list. So if I had flown from Indy to Philly and led people to believe that I was going to stay in Pennsylvania, nobody would say anything. So from what my brother and my friends told me, New Jersey just opened up their restaurants. Here in Indiana, restaurants in certain counties have been open for quite some time. The Colts, I did not even know this passed my mind. I was watching it. Well, if you call that a game this past Sunday, the Jets got destroyed by Indianapolis. They had fans in the stands. I was like, what? I didn't know that. So maybe a Colts game could be on my list this year. That shouldn't be too bad if they let me in. So yeah, I was unaware of that. I was unaware that they're allowing fans at Lucas Oil. I think it was, I can't think of the number right now. Very minuscule. If anybody's listening, tell us how many fans they let in. So like I said, it depends what county you live here in Indiana. Some counties have been very lenient. Other counties haven't. I'm in one of the lenient counties. If I maybe walk about a mile south, I'm in Marion County, which is where Indy is, a little more strict. So you just don't know.
And we know how much traveling Dave's been able to do this summer.
They're very strict up there in that
February
communist
29th.
country.
I haven't mentioned that date before, have I?
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
Boy, what's Dave going to do when he actually can go to a game?
He's
Oh,
going to be like an
here you go.
recovering alcoholic on a bender.
Hey, Mark, apparently there was 2,500 allowed at the Colts game.
Okay.
Huh.
I was going to say about 5,000. So I was
I got 7,500.
Oh,
Lucas Oil sits about what, 70?
70,000. 7,500. That's a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was for the opener, so they might have increased it the next week.
Okay. 75.
Yeah, my bad.
We have I think a former writer who was there this past game. They played the
wow.
Jets, right? This past weekend?
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
the
said
Jets were there. They didn't really play much.
it said 7,500.
7,500. Okay. Well, maybe.
So-
they
Yeah,
can
well, that's
squeeze
stadium
in.
journey biased. I don't believe him.
Well, I don't know. Whatever.
7,500 sounds about right.
So Andrew,
10%, yeah.
what with all of this sort of re-examination of everything that's going on, and you've had to re-examine your own quest. Have you done any like rethinking and re-ranking of who needs to come next? Like what are your top spots that you want to go to when you're able to go and we are back in relative normalcy?
I still have Army up there. I
Ooh.
I know you have a story about Army. That seems to come up every time.
Dave's got a bad story. I got a great story. So balance them out.
Maybe I'll be in the middle. So Washington, I want a sailgate. I mean, that is something you can't do right now. Good Lord. I have to finish. I'm so close to finishing the SEC, Auburn, Georgia, Mississippi State, especially with Leach there. And if I can, one of my dreams, I'll tell you right now, I really want to, you've heard Mike Leach speak in any press conferences, have you? Yeah. If you haven't, you just Google Mike Leach and press conference.
He's a weird dude.
A bevy of stuff will come up that will just entertain you. But I want to get into one of his conferences. So, one of his press conferences. So that'd be a big reason. But honestly, God, I'll take anything. I'll take Eastern Michigan right now.
Whoa.
I know, Brayfield and all. I'll take it. But I mean, they've been practicing social distancing for a while though, so it wouldn't be much. But
It's like
Not on
Those-
purpose.
that's what I was saying about the NHL. People were like, "Well, people can't go." I was like, "Just pretend you're a Panthers fan. It's fine."
True story about Eastern Michigan. The HBO did a story on one of their, I think they're the Brian Gumbel thing on the decreasing attendance
yes,
in college football, and they bought a picture from Stadium Journey that I took from Eastern Michigan.
really.
Now, what they didn't say
They pay you
is
for
that I was on the side where the people were, and I was taking a picture across the field where there were like 4 people in the stands. So, but anyway, they used our picture for that,
How much that picture cost?
it. With permission, correct?
with permission.
They paid for it, if I remember correctly.
They did,
Yeah.
yes.
That's what he said. He said they
got it.
paid for the picture.
I
Okay,
got
good.
a little bonus out of that one. So
I always tease Eastern Michigan, and of course, I always say no matter where I go, I love it. But I just feel like I haven't had an Eastern Michigan fans come at me yet, so I just feel like I'm safe to pick that one team. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe they should be proud that they're the team that I picked to sort of, razz, because I'm afraid of doing some of the others. I really am. I will not name them.
Oh, come on, man. So I don't know, for some of our listeners who may be listening, why don't you?
That's what you
Would
do.
you want? Well, no. Some of our listeners actually watch. Would that make them watchers? I don't know.
They're watchers. They're viewers.
Viewers. Thank
I
you.
saw you on the pictures the other day, kid.
Oh, it's been a long day at work. I'm sorry. Do you want to give our listeners a little taste of what your site's about, Andrew, and maybe
Absolutely.
tell them about some of your favorite places, interesting stories, good old stuff like that. We want to get our money's worth out of you.
Sure. No. Well, yeah. I mean, you got my permission. I feel too. Can I just say before I say that, I feel like
No, you can't.
our energy is low. I feel the energy is low on the podcast tonight.
Pandemic's got us. COVID.
Nobody's fault. I just think I mean, I think we're all just kind of Not,
I blame Army.
we don't have that battery charger. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about pork roll then.
Anyway, college football tour. Sorry.
That's
Um,
two, Dan. That's twice.
Andrew, he fit right in. He was like, "Yeah, no."
Yeah. collegefootballtour.com. This is something I honestly, I grew up a big Badger fan, and it in the 90s when they were getting good, and I just started going to games on the road, and it became a passion. And the website started in 2006, and that's when I really made the commitment to say I want to get to all FBS stadiums. Of course, then it was 117, and they keep pushing it along. But the website, everything that's all involved, every game I go to, I want to be your tour guide. I want to take you and give you the experience of what it would be like to be at that stadium as best I can. And I do so on College Football Tour with pictures and articles that I write and all sorts of things like that. The videos are the crown jewel, I feel, because they take a lot of my time. But I walk you through campus on a game day, 4.5 minute episode. Throw a little trivia in there. I try to pick 3 of the biggest traditions I can for each school and let you experience it. And so, in my own little way. So, the website's evolved in all different ways. I have my Twitter handle and Instagram, and it's really gives you the idea. The idea is I want to get you there in that stadium with me.
Yeah, and they're very well done videos. I mean, as someone who's not a big college football fan, I enjoy watching them. And I think since we last talked, I actually added a new college football stadium. I'm up to 5 now.
All right, let's hear it.
So
What is it?
I'm right on your heels. Well, let's see. I've got BC, UMass, UConn, Army, and Notre Dame.
Very good.
But I was at Notre Dame for a hockey
cheating.
Oh,
game.
You can't go to Notre Dame Stadium for hockey and say it counts.
I'm
That's like
confident.
saying I
Whoa,
went to
whoa.
Fenway
Hold
Park
on.
for hockey, and I've been to
Wait.
Fenway Park.
I've
Wait.
been there for that too.
He was there at the stadium. What does it matter what he saw?
Come on, I took a picture in front of Goal Sally Jesus.
What
Nope.
the-
No,
Like
guys, that would
going
not
to
absolutely not count. Listen, and that means that my 2006 closing ceremonies of the gay games when I saw Cyndi Lauper perform means I saw a Cubs game. Come on.
Like going to like Las Vegas and seeing Pete Rose in one of those card shops looking all sorry, signing autographs, saying that you saw the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, I saw A-Red.
Did you notice I picked up the energy, didn't I?
Oh, there you did. Very good.
Thank God one of us
That
did.
wasn't
Hey, I've actually been to a, you know what? This is way back. I just thought of this. I went to a University of Maryland game at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. 1988.
Oh wow. Wow, I feel like those are some good years for them, or am I thinking
They played Penn State. I don't remember much except
probably didn't go well.
a friend of mine came up with 3 girls who were very attractive, and we had a lot to drink, and that's all I remember about that day.
That's all he wants to remember.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you the rest of what I remember.
He went home alone.
Hey, Andrew, you're back.
Yeah, Paul, perfect. Good. Keep
What
going.
a segue that was.
What a segue. It's just going to look like this on video. It's going to go, Andrew, welcome back.
Well, it's better than what we had during the intermission, man.
Yeah. Debatable.
Perhaps.
So, pork roll, yes or no?
So pork
Andrew,
roll,
you're
does
in
it look better
Wisconsin,
than spam? Sorry.
Fried cheese curds, man, and a spotted cow. I'm good.
Just, ladies and gentlemen, all you need to know before Andrew answers this question is to go to twitch.tv if you want to see how quickly a Canadian can piss off a guy from South Jersey.
I got
Oh,
two
was I
words
supposed to have
for
my
you.
stopwatch on? Dave,
No.
you had a question for Andrew.
Carter.
Okay, I gotta go.
Sorry. Question. Andrew, are there any upcoming new stadiums that we can expect in the next couple of years, college football? UNLV is moving, are they not?
They are. Aren't they? They're planning on moving into the Raiders Stadium though, which
Oh, really?
yeah, that was actually going to be one of my first games. Now, unless I don't know if I'd have to look to see if they have any plans down the road, but I think they were looking to get rid of Sam Boyd Stadium there in Vegas and move on. And you know how I feel about college football and pro stadiums. It just sucks the joy out of it. It's not the same thing. Not to mention, number one being that you have to bus students in. I mean, everybody else will come in from the town, but it's not the same.
It'll probably do really well to start.
Probably.
I think kind of like Atlanta United has done really well, partially because it's cheaper than going to see the Falcons to see the new stadium. So I would think that grabbing a ticket to see UNLV is going to be far more economical and more available than a ticket to see the Raiders.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that. That's a heavy statement. We'll see. It's Allegiant Stadium, is that right? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, aren't they calling it like the Death Star now?
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium.
I think that is the proper name, yes.
The
The Death Star now.
Rumba.
It looks beautiful.
It looks like a rumba, yes. Who said that?
Yes.
Oh,
The Rumba. Yes.
you mean a Roomba?
Roomba.
Yeah, well, when you played Oakland County Memorial Coliseum, whatever it's called, for 54 years, my God. Anything would be nicer, but yeah, it's a gorgeous stadium in Vegas. They did a nice job.
Anybody else building that you could think of?
That's coming up new. Hawaii's got one in the play. They're going to tear down that old Aloha Stadium built in the 70s, and I'm pretty sure on the same grounds they're going to create a more a 40,000 seat stadium, because Hawaii football, they were really good in the 2000s and they filled it up then, but now they can't fill it halfway. It's some of the best fans out there, but they can't quite fill it halfway. So they're thinking about creating a more of a stadium and surrounding, area with it.
I asked you the question, and now all these examples are coming to my head. San Diego State has announced that they're going to play where the LA Galaxy play for this year.
They're building.
Are they building on campus, or are they just building at the site of the old old Jack Murphy.
I think in the parking lot, right?
I honestly, I don't know where they are building that, but I do know that they have a new one in play because Qualcomm, SDCCU Stadium, the multiple names. It was falling apart. And I don't think I think it would cost more money to renovate it than it would to just build a new one.
So is that going to hit your to-do list then?
Great question. I like this question because, I've been to, the idea is to go to the experience. So, if I've been to a particular stadium, they've completely torn it down and have a new one, then it's okay. Houston is a good example of that. Houston had their old stadium forever. I went to a game there in 2010. They tore it down 2 years later. I don't feel like if I miss going to it's not like it's erased off my my checklist. I do actually want to go to the new stadium, and I will at some point, I'm sure. But if I didn't, I wouldn't count it against my goal.
And since I know San Diego State was probably not a great trip for you. I mean, I would think that a new spot in a beautiful city with the best weather in the country, it's got to be high on the list.
Yeah, I would go to San Diego for multiple reasons, but and just to make, I enjoyed the San Diego State atmosphere. Those fans deserve better than that stadium. They just do, because they've got something that could really be good down the road. They're the kind of team that could potentially move up into the into higher echelons of football for sure. So, that's why it's such a head scratcher to me why certain teams want to dump their current stadium and go to a pro stadium. It's just, if you want to move up, you have to show that you can do it as a university.
Do you think, since we're on San Diego State, do you think they benefit and are able to capitalize on the Chargers leaving?
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think UCLA and USC certainly did for all those years that LA, the Rams weren't there. And, it's not that enthusiasm for USC or UCLA was not good or anything. Obviously, they're two of the best, most traditional programs in college football. But when you have no other choice, just naturally, you're gonna want to fill those stadiums. So absolutely, I think San Diego State, this could be a rocket launch for them if they play it smart.
With all those questions, Dave, where'd they go?
Hey, man, I started with one and ended up being 8.
So Hawaii, if Hawaii tears down Aloha Stadium, does that mean they're going to have to play an entire road schedule for a year or two?
Oh, wow.
That's some freaking flight miles.
I don't know. That's a great question. Can you imagine? They would do it, throw some tutors on the plane and let her rip.
Well, with all these schools that are playing football now without, students on campus or whatever, why bother with the tutors?
Yeah.
That's slightly cynical.
Are there any other schools that are getting ready to make the jump up to FBS, or is the finish line staying put for a little bit?
That finish line is staying put for a little bit. What's more interesting is what teams could start flirting with that Power 5. There's a lot of teams that want to be able to move up. I think that's more of a realistic question right now. And there's so many teams like BYU. I have to just scratch my head about them. Why did they go independent? I think they're just waiting to be snatched up by the Pac-12 or someone. If Utah can do it, why not us? And so I think about that. Boise State's another good one that has a shot. Even Appalachian State, those teams are really trying to make themselves known. UCF, another one.
Isn't BYU in obviously not on the same magnitude, but aren't they in a similar situation as to Notre Dame? Like they like to control their own media. They don't really want to share it with anybody else. They got their own. I think they run their own television station down there too, don't they?
They do. They do. I don't know much about it, but I know they do. But it's not gaining the money that the Longhorn Network are, or it's not certainly not gaining the money that NBC and Notre Dame have together. I don't know that BYU could pick that kind of thing up. So, I mean, I would be surprised if they would turn down an invitation from a Power 5 conference.
But is it good? Is that money going to be better money than, the Pac-14 network or whatever it would become,
Yeah.
Pac-12? Because really, I mean, they're not going anywhere else. They're not going to go to the SEC or
Could go to
I
Big
don't know.
12.
I suppose they could go to the Big 12 if you think that the Big 12 is going to stick around instead of everybody going their own separate ways, or there's always been talk that kind of Kansas State's going to be left in the lurch, and Oklahoma and Texas are just going to do whatever they want.
Yeah, those conversations are a very potential post-2020 reflection kind of thing. Not immediate, like I said earlier, but this could be something that they reflect upon and go, wow, this is our chance to really make some changes.
One of the things that's happened over the years in college football, I found anyway, unless you're at the big giants, and even like Nick Saban has complained about this, catching the attention of the students, which has become, I think, a bigger issue. The smaller the school, the less outside community support, the more important the students are, the more difficult it has become to catch their attention. Do you think that student interest in athletics, in football and basketball, do you think it is going to become even more difficult to catch their attention with a sort of gap that's happening here?
Well, the problems were mounting already, and I know a lot of schools were trying their best to come up with any innovation they could. Better Wi-Fi in the stadium so that people didn't feel like they run back to plug in their phone or get better access. I see concessions changing. I see so many things changing, and I see more stadiums re-allowing alcohol again. For the juniors and seniors, of course.
Yeah.
Right. But so since the problem was already there, you bring up a good point. That could totally exacerbate it. This moment. But I don't know. I don't think so. College football, I think, in my opinion, college football is too steeped in tradition. There are too many people that are passing along these stories and these traditions. I think it would have to be a number of years before something like that happened. I don't think a year, and maybe next year is even somewhat compromised. I don't think that would make. I don't think it'd make a difference. But I do think that, again, this is a time. If you don't take 2020 to reflect and improve, then you got to use it for that. I think this is a time to look at that stuff. Wisconsin's been having that problem for a while. I'm always embarrassed by Wisconsin. It's one of the things the students. This used to be, God, that place would pack up so fast all the time. But now you have to get in there. It's like a mosh pit. They give you a voucher and you walk in almost basically one at a time, and it takes forever for the student section to fill in. And I think the students kind of get frustrated just by the entry process. So I know that Barry Alvarez and some of the other bigwigs over at Wisconsin have been trying to improve anything they can from Wi-Fi and beyond. So this isn't a new problem. And but I do think that 2020 will force people to take a closer look at it.
Well, and out of all of us, I would say that you lived the big school football experience. I mean, I know I definitely didn't. I don't think the other guys did. How do you think that student experience has changed from your time as a student versus how it is now?
It's more controlled. I mean, when I went to Wisconsin, And when I went with my brothers in the early 90s, not to keep bringing them up, but it's just a good example. It just is. God, you could do anything. You could do anything. I remember 92. Wisconsin beat Ohio State. Everyone rushed the field. That game, they made Ohio State come out of the tunnel right under the student section. 75, 80,000 fans. They came out right under the student section. The students had ice, rotten fruit, marshmallows with pennies in them. You know, on a hot day, it would stick to the helmets. Things like that. Kirk Herbstreit always talks about, on College Game Day, always talks about that game where you got a tomato in the back, and there's pictures of him with a big stain. I remember at the end of that game, they ripped a bleacher out and threw it over the edge of the stadium. There was less control. It was, you know, and now there are more limits. There's more, you know, and you know, roll out the red carpet kind of campaigns. You know, be nice to one another. And you know, while I completely get that and everything, I do think that, you know, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between the university bigwigs and their students, and they're trying, but I don't know. I think it could be better.
That's the $1 million question, I think, at all facilities: safety versus entertainment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Wisconsin still does, as much as the presidents and stuff kind of turn a blind eye to it, but they still scream back and forth either side of the student section. 15,000 scream F you, and the others eat S, but the actual words, of course. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's the one tradition that's held on for decades. Thank God.
On that note, with a big FU and a big ES, I think that's an appropriate time for us to probably wrap up for tonight. Andrew, you want to take a second and pimp out your website and your social media presence and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Thank you again, guys, for having me on. collegefootballtour.com is the website. The Twitter is college_FB_tour. And YouTube and Instagram, you can just find me by searching College Football Tour.
Awesome. We'll have you on once again when we actually get to start going to games.
You got it. I'll be ready to go.
That's when it's so much more fun, huh?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So, Dan, where can our listeners follow you online?
DanLaw83 on all social media platforms, youtube.com/DanLaw83. That's it.
That's it. You got more social media than that, man.
No, it's all DanLaw83. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
Twitch.
Pornhub.
Pornhub. Oh, wait. This podcast is taking a few really dark turns.
StreamMate.
Hey, Mark, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram at Ballpark Hunter. Also on YouTube at Ballpark Hunter. I have 201 subscribers. Check out my videos. I have new content every Monday. And hopefully I get to someplace new sometime in the next few months. So check that out at Ballpark Hunter.
Yeah, I skipped over our section on where have we been lately because I don't think any of us has been anywhere. Dave, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Profan9. Literary journey is continuing. Got the audiobook by Bruce McNall, which is really interesting. So if you're ever looking for a way to like get financing without actually having any money, Bruce McNall is your guy. And also reading Playing Hardball, which is interesting about all of the politics behind the Rockies and the Florida Marlins coming to Major League Baseball. Very interesting. Anyway, follow that, Profan9. Hey, the Marlins have won 2 World Series in since what, 90-something?
93.
I mean,
that would be more. That would be one more than the Phillies.
That doesn't. What does that got to do with their business sense, though?
Well,
They did
What
make
does that
the
got to do with their
playoffs.
crappy owner and their garbage ownership and nothing?
Actually, truth be told, if you look at this, and this kind of dawned at me, if you compare the Marlins and the Rockies, the Marlins have won 2 World Series. The Rockies obviously have not, but I think most people would say that the Rockies are the more stable franchise. And to my chagrin, I forgot to shout out to my Montreal Expos hat. Today is the 16th anniversary of the final Expos game in Montreal. That's a little freaky. That was 16 years ago.
Somebody was
It's been
heckling.
that long, huh?
Yep.
Somebody was heckling me on Twitter about the Phillies and from the DC fandom and saying that I haven't suffered enough. I said, son, I've been watching Phillies games on Prism and watching them suck before you had a baseball team. So
this is
back off.
Harry, Mike Schmidt's up to the plate. Hits one
And
deep
I-
over the outfield here at the.
Don't you ever call Harry Callis Harry Carey ever again.
Oh, Harry Callis. Oh, God, I'm losing it. Harry Callis.
All right, guys. So everybody, you can follow my Stadium Journeys,
Harry Callis.
which may resume in January. Who knows? Follow me on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. Until next time, check out our website, stadiumjourney.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at Stadium Journey. You could find the podcast just search for VOC Nation Radio Network.
Or
on iTunes
VOCNation.com.
VOCNation.com?
Thank you. That too. Yes, both.
Both work. Okay. Why was I mixing? Never
I don't
mind.
know. Very
Like I said,
simply.
like Dan just said, VOCNation.com,
There you go.
VOC Nation Radio Network.
There you go. You got it.
All right.
Jesus Christ. Take us out of here, please.
Join us again in 2 weeks, right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. Where we will be joined by, from the 2020 Major League Lacrosse champion Boston Cannons, starting goaltender Nick Baracco. He'll be giving us an insider's look at what life was like inside one of those famous sports bubbles.
Should be good.
So, thanks again to Andrew Bauhs for joining us. For Dan Calachico, Mark Viquez, Dave Cotney, I am Paul Baker. Till next time, be excellent to each other.